Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Calling to order Clark County Council at our county uh, council time meeting, Wednesday, July 29th, 2026. Let's have the roll call.
Counselor Young,
Here.
Counselor Belcott,
Present.
Counselor Fuentes,
Here.
Counselor Little,
Here.
Chair Marshall.
Here. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to add 5.2 and its pro-con statements for the ballot measures.
Pro con. Okay, great. That's timely. Then let's move on to public comment. And just a reminder, it's for agenda items only. And is there anyone signed up?
We do. Carmen De Leon,
Hello. Okay, so I'm Carmen De Leon Mello, and I was reading over some of these financial statements, and it appears to me that there's nothing in here that estimates the price of a few phone calls. And like I have a list of people whose lives could have been saved. Lakin Riley, a 22-year-old nursing woman who was killed by an illegal. Rachel Morin, a 37-year-old mother in Maryland, killed by an illegal. It doesn't say how much cheaper it would have been to just call immigration when they have felons to see if they need a hold requirement, because it would save financially all of us and even lives in this country if we had an automatically deportation of anybody who commits a felony in this country, especially a violent one towards women and children. It should be automatic hold for INS. And I know you like the idea of abolishing ICE, but there are those of us with scars who barely made it out alive by the skin of our teeth who would like to see abusive people deported to their own countries. And there's not a word of that in the financing of how much they're really costing us in lives and financially to incarcerate them and let them go again to reoffend and still not be deported. So I guess you don't care about that kind of money. I see that there is $1 million here, and let's get down to it. 369.1 million represents a portion of the constraints imposed by outside Clark County, yada, 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 another 42 million here, another 46 million there, 12 million there. But none of it adds up to the 3 billion you want to put into light rail. So how does that work out, you see? Because when you have the balance and then you have too much debt and not enough money, the scales topple over. So is that what you're waiting for? Because according to this, you don't have money for $3 billion of light rail. That, by the way, out of 500,000 now, 500,000 people have voted no light rail. And I don't see anybody who agrees with me up there. Too sad that you don't care what the people who vote for you want. And that is not throwing away money on light rail. That's not in here. How come all the other money's in here? And it doesn't account for the billions lost to Idaho and Montana from people leaving because they've been taxed out of businesses, taxed out of their homes, and have left the state. That's left out because it was on the news how many people have left Washington state because it's unlivable, unaffordable to stay in this state anymore. How much time do I have? Oh, well, God bless you. Enjoy the weather. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
we do. We have some online callers. Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute yourself. Please do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comments.
Go ahead, Cleve.
Hello, my name's Cleve Allen Goheen Rengo. I'm currently in Clark County Jail. I want to speak on 5.1 Popular Annual Finance Report. Under the county elected officials and for the law and justice that's happening or the lack thereof in Clark County, I have severe concerns. There's been, at my last court date, which was Monday, I had Miss Judge Searing Cornell publicly berate me and abuse me and sat there for almost 10 minutes putting me down, talking down to me, and taking my conduct, which has been a hard-fought fight for almost 20 months on false allegations. I don't have adequate representation here, and I have huge complaints against the Office of Public Defense, to the point where I and other people have tried to network in here to get change to happen, to affect change in Clark County. It's completely inadequate. The report is echoed in here by dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of people. The judge was not within her right or her discretion or what she is paid and elected by the taxpayer to do by berating me and insulting me and my behavior in the courtroom, when all I try to do is to speak up for my rights, as I am an innocent man. I have suffered unjustly. I can't believe that this is going on in the public setting. Of course, when I look into the audience there's nobody there to support me but my mother, and which is a lot. And my mom does so much to fight for what needs to change here in this county for law and justice. She's mentioned to me before in several of these sessions, which I'm thankful for. I think that the public needs to get more involved and activated into being a common place participant in these meetings. They need to know what's going on. They need to know what's being passed right under their noses. The public mention and the berating and the abuse that I went through by the judge, it was absolutely uncalled for. It prejudiced me, it biased me, all sorts of things. I can't believe that in her professionality she let that slip. But it goes to show, when we have certain officials elected, they're appointed by other people that are in power. This was Bob Ferguson years ago that appointed her. And now she's worked her way up to a Superior Court judge, takes her position and bends it to hurt
Okay.
a
Okay.
community.
Thank you. Your time is up.
One more caller.
One more caller. I think we're taking a
Caller.
broad look at the budget here.
You've been sent a request to unmute yourself. Please do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comments.
Hi there. Excuse me. Hello, this is Renee T. Cash, and I am the conservation director for Friends of the Columbia Gorge. And thank you, Chair and Council members, for listening to my comments today. For over 40 years, Friends of the Columbia Gorge has worked to protect the scenic, natural, cultural, and recreational resources of the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area. While the proposed JL Stordahl and Sons Quarry is located in Skamania County, its impacts do not stop at the county line. We urge Clark County to formally echo the comments submitted by the City of Washougal, City of Camas, Port of Camas-Washougal, and Washougal District regarding the draft environmental impact statement. Their coordinated technical review identifies an important gap in the DEIS. The environmental review does not adequately evaluate how project-related truck traffic will move through and affect the broader regional transportation network, including Clark County. The DEIS contains substantial analysis of the quarry site and nearby haul routes, but it stops short of evaluating where the majority of the westbound truck traffic will ultimately travel and how that traffic will affect downstream communities, public infrastructure, school transportation, freight movement, public safety, greenhouse gas emissions, and cumulative impacts. Friends also respectfully ask Clark County to request that Skamania County expand the study area for the final environmental impact statement. Environmental review should reflect the true geographic extent of the project's impacts. Because project-generated truck traffic, air emissions, noise, and transportation impacts extend into Clark County, those impacts should fully be analyzed, not treated as an outside the scope of the review simply because they occur beyond the county boundary. Given the scale of this proposal and the sensitivity of the surrounding resources, comprehensive environmental review is essential. The public deserves a transparent process that fully evaluates environmental, transportation, all of the things I mentioned above. Whether through one or more environmental reviews, including any required EIS statements, the analysis must be thorough, coordinated, and fully comply with both the National Environmental Policy Act and the State Environmental Policy Act. The Columbia River and gorge communities that surround it are deeply interconnected. Decisions made in one jurisdiction have real consequences for neighboring communities. We encourage you to support a final EIS that reflects this regional reality by expanding the study area and ensuring that decision makers and public have the complete information needed to make an informed decision. Thank you so much for your leadership and your commitment to protecting the health, safety, and quality of life for Clark County residents. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
That concludes public comment. Okay, then let's move on to old business. We'll start with approval of the minutes for July 22nd, 2026. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on, rules of procedure. This was something we talked about months ago, and we were waiting for a component of it. And Kathleen, would you like to kick this off?
Sure. And just because it's been a few months, if I'll just briefly touch on the items that have already been discussed by council, and then we can talk about the last piece that was added, and then anything else that council may want to address. And just as a reminder, that this isn't a formal approval. Once council is comfortable and you've captured what you want in here, it'll go to a public hearing, at which time you'll do your final consideration. So, sorry, I'm not on the screen. Okay, so if we go down to page 5, we just had the clarifying language under B there about Robert's Rules of Order, and that in the event that there is a conflict or dispute regarding the process, the council will follow Robert's Rules of Order. And on the next page, there was a couple provisions added regarding removing counselors from the counselor board and or commission appointment with a simple majority vote. And also clarifying that council may direct an individual counselor how to vote on specific policy items with a simple majority. The next page on the agenda,
Would you like us to chat about these as we go along?
if you would like.
Did you have anything to add related to that? I think you sent out a.
Oh. Yeah, I was trying to find that email because I couldn't remember exactly what I'd put in there, but I think which part did I don't know. I need to find that email.
I would say, and I know I responded to you, most of your comments were actually in track changes. It might be hard for you to see that something was
Okay.
deleted and
Yes.
capitalized, so.
Yes, particularly. I do remember the one issue, but it's not here, which was related to the complaints for our not decorum, but man, I am really struggling here.
I will.
But we'll get there later, and I'll bring that up then.
Kathleen can find your email.
I'm going to forward it. Do you have access to your email?
Yes, I
Okay,
do.
I will forward it back to you. Okay.
Councilor Belcott, while we're waiting for that, do you have a comment?
Yes, so I'm seeing the majority of this language looks pretty much just like City of Vancouver's language as far as voting and removal. Am I correct in that?
I did not, excuse me, I did not look at the City of Vancouver's language regarding this. This was the directive of council.
Okay, so who put this language together specifically?
Based on the council's request, I typed it into this and it was shared, I believe, the last couple times that we reviewed this, but it was language from the county council.
Okay, well, I didn't contribute to this, so it's not me.
It was discussed, I think, at a couple of meetings, but it was months ago.
Okay,
Yeah,
do you want-
that's, well, this, I guess this makes sense because I don't agree with this language, so.
Council, would you like me to continue? Councilor Young? Okay. So on the next page on the agenda, just changing some of the order that council was looking at, putting the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation up front, and then moving open public comment prior to public hearings. Skip to page 9. This is regarding comments from the public and being civil. So we made that a little bit more concise. I will say I would probably recommend adding some language. We'll talk about this a little bit more. There is a process for your consideration that's attached. And if approved, I would recommend adding language at the end of this paragraph, just saying that if the conduct continues, the council will adhere to the county facility trespass policy as attached as Exhibit 2. So that would be a further amendments there. On the bottom of page 10 and to page 11, this is just solidifying the business process that council had already adopted about amending agendas, either adding or deleting. And that the chair will ask if there's any objections. If there's not, or if there is, there would be a vote. And adding agenda items would be time sensitive, so it could not be forwarded to the next meeting. Okay, and then if you go towards the end, it's probably going to be on page 20. This is the draft policy that council was looking for. I will say Jordan drafted this by looking at the City of Vancouver's policy, because they did have a policy on trespassing. And our PA's office also reviewed this for your consideration. And I don't know if you want me, it really just outlines what does, what's prohibited activities, what does that include, what locations like open meetings, they would apply to that, anywhere where the general public would be a part of, not necessarily behind closed doors or those areas that don't have public access. And then what the process is if a community member continues to cause disruption, that would follow through with a trespass form, which I have handed to you guys on the desk there. And also having appeal rights for those individuals to challenge that. I'm more than happy to read this word for word, but it's up to council. I think, I know I did send it ahead of time for you guys. There's a couple corrections in there that I did note. There is CCSO officers, they're deputies. I'll change it to deputies. There is a difference between a police officer and a sheriff office deputy. There's a couple places in here where, like on the first page under the bullet points, when prohibitive activity occurs, county staff will make reasonable efforts. I might include in there and/or the chair, because I do think that the chair or their designee can also address these matters. So there's a couple of references where it's the county manager, but I would like to include the council chair. And that's all the updates that are included now. Happy to take feedback, see if there's anything else that you want changed, added, deleted, get feedback on the policy. And then once you guys are ready, then we will schedule this for a public hearing.
Councilor Young?
Yes. So the one thing that there was something else I sent earlier, but I since have changed my mind on it. But the one thing I still think we ought to consider is in the Code of Professional Conduct, there's no clear process for which how a complaint is made and who it can be made by. And so I would suggest clarifying that by adding a paragraph that says, an allegation of a violation of the Code of Professional Conduct must be submitted in writing by a counselor to either the chair or the county manager. The counselor who is the subject of the complaint shall receive a copy of the complaint and be provided an opportunity to respond before the council considers any disciplinary action. So this has never come up, in the almost 4 years that we've been on the council, but I still think it would be worth clarifying if this were to come up, that the process is clearly stated.
Kathleen, do you have any background on what the intention might have been? If the intention was to have members of the public have the ability to do this, or what, was there an assumption made?
Yeah, I believe this has been in place for before my time, but yes, there's been revisions over the years, and I didn't think it was limited to just counselors filing concerns or complaints. And I know one of the struggles that prior counselors had talked about is that accountability, because there is limited things, like you could remove a counselor from all their boards and commissions, and that counselor actually might be happy about that. So, so it's, I think there's a limitation on what authority you actually have, but I understood it was for counselors or public members that could file concerns under this. We've not really received any. I would say those are mostly going through the Ethics Review Commission, which is a separate.
Well, and I think many of those that go through the ethics are really not ethical
Correct.
violations. So,
Yes.
So just
Go
a
ahead.
comment on that. I think the public has the opportunity to, so obviously the public wouldn't go to a county counselor of which they were complaining, that they have the opportunity to go to another counselor and voice their opinion. And I think at that point, it's up to the county counselors to decide whether a complaint should be made. Otherwise, I think we risk having complaints coming in all the time, essentially.
but I think it had been open for people to complain all this time. But now that we're talking about it, it might be giving some folks some
Sure.
ideas. Yes, go ahead.
Counselor Young, you are referring to Code of Professional Conduct, page 17. Which section are you looking at adding that language? And if you can do me at least a favor of repeating what you are recommending we add.
I would leave maybe the suggestion of where to put it to probably the county manager, but I'm happy to read it again.
Yeah, please.
So it would be an allegation of a violation of the Code of Professional Conduct must be submitted in writing by a counselor to either the chair or the county manager. The counselor who is the subject of the complaint shall receive a copy of the complaint and be provided an opportunity to respond before the council considers any disciplinary action.
So this is any type of complaint outside of an ethic violation? Okay.
It's specifically relative to the code of conduct that we have in
For counselor.
For rule,
Thank
yep.
you. Okay. I think I could support that language. I'd have to kind of process a little bit more and see if that's exactly how it needs to be worded. One thing I would like for us to consider is to be proactive. May not, be something that'll ever be useful, but at least we're being proactive and we're aware of it, that there is a process, right, to submit a complaint against another county counselor if needed.
Counselor Belcott.
I was just wondering what this accomplishes, because you can't unelect one of us. We do have the ethics complaint board. I guess what is the substantive difference between this and that? Because we can't unelect each other based on something that we don't like about one another or how somebody voted. As you all did that. You removed me from the C-Tran board because you didn't like the way that I voted. So what does this necessarily accomplish?
Well, I would say that there is a professional code of conduct and our rules of procedure, and currently there is no real specified process by which it should be done. If there is a complaint, we've never had a complaint, we've never had to face this before, but if we have the code in there and a supposed process on complaints, but we don't actually spell it out how it's done, who can make it, who takes it, and what the process is, then there's no purpose in having it. And the difference between it and the Code of Ethics, they're totally different. Code of Ethics is very clear on what that is regarding. This is specifically the code of conduct that is listed already currently in our rules of procedure.
Has legal had a chance to weigh in on this, Kathleen? I don't
Yes.
see,
I would say they have, there's no changes right now to this. It's been in your rules of procedure and has been revised over the years. With
Yeah, and I
legal's
remember-
review, with legal's review, yes.
I remember us talking about this, and that was one of the things that came up in previous conversation years ago, was that we can't unelect what does this accomplish, I guess? It's
Yeah.
just complaining about one another?
Yeah, and what's currently in there, as you can see on bottom of page 18, the final written order. So like the discipline, I would say, would be a cease and desist, a public admonishment, and public resolution of censure with removal of the violator from all the committees in which they're representing the county. That's what's currently in there. And Counselor, you are correct. There's not a ton that, more than that legally you can do.
This makes no sense to me. So you would still be elected, just you wouldn't be on any boards or committees or be able to vote. So
We add them to more boards and committees. I agree with Counselor Belcott. And I would even say that, I mean, if you look at any of these code of professional conducts, the entire list, we don't have to adhere to any of them, right? I mean, we can't remove each other from our position. But I think what it does, it does hold us accountable to ourselves. It holds us accountable to our constituents, to our community members, and so that they are aware that we are at least trying to follow a code of conduct here at the county council. But, at the end of the day, I think it's really up to us to decide how we want to conduct ourselves.
Okay, any other comments, or is there agreement on any direction forward?
Well, I would say there's two options. To me, it makes sense to either adopt this or to just get rid of the entire section.
And have no code of conduct?
Yeah. Because if we have a code of conduct but no process, then it doesn't serve much purpose.
Yeah. I would be supportive of including a process. And this, I would just point out, was something that, I don't know, maybe it was adopted in 23 at that council at that time. So it's been on the books, but without any identified process for anyone to file a complaint. And I don't know if the complaint should come to maybe it should come to the county manager.
I had either or on there, but to me, that's just I'm okay with either way.
And I would say, prior to this council years ago, we did have a public person who filed a complaint against the council based on counselors' behavior towards each other on the dais.
Thank you.
I support adding it.
And to be directed to the county manager or to the council or
To
Chair.
the chair.
to the chair. The complaint could be about the chair.
Then maybe the county manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay with
Any other thought, Councilor Little, do you want to weigh in on in any way here?
I'm supportive of adding a process. I'm just not sure exactly how to do it.
Right.
But
Okay.
I think we're headed in the right direction.
Good. That sounds good. All right. I think it sounds like 4 are agreeable to a process and 1 is not. So there's a majority for you. Any other comments? One thing that I didn't see in here, but I recollect that we talked about earlier, is the encouragement that counselors participate at all council meetings in person. That's not to eliminate the online possibility. And then I would like to add, and I think it was in at some point previously, that if you are online, that you have your camera on so that you're visible during the meeting. And that's not to say some people may need to step away for a moment, but I think it's important that people see that the counselors are online and visible.
It
That's my
affects
suggestion.
bandwidth with our cameras on at times, which makes it so we lose connections.
Pardon me?
When you have your cameras on all the time, it affects your bandwidth and connectivity.
Okay, so there might be technical reasons not to have your camera on.
I know that there are several of us, and it's very strange to have your camera on when you're reading when you're reading presentations. It looks a little odd. So it's just my 2 cents, but it does affect bandwidth. And Kathleen is aware of that. And I think Counselor Young has had issues in the past too. You keep your camera on all the time.
Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So I appreciate this, and I think we ought to really consider it. I don't think there's anything that we can do that would, you know, I mean, if somebody doesn't abide by that, then they don't abide by that. I think there are appropriate times to have your camera off. You know, I have joined meetings in the past where I wasn't feeling well at all. So there are times to be online, there are times to be off camera, but they should be the exception, not the norm.
Right. Well, and I think anyone who's online and is having difficulty could just note that, and there could be an exception made to have the camera off. It's just awkward if I'm calling on someone and I don't know if they're there or not.
And Chair, on the screen here, we do have, I did find the language on the page 6 that on item number C, where it says, while council meetings can be attended in person or virtually, it is preferred that councilors attend regular meetings in person. So that language is included for regular meetings. Regular meetings are your Tuesday meetings. And so if you want that language added also to, I don't know, is council time considered a regular meeting? Okay, council time and work sessions, we can add that in
Yeah,
those sections.
They're included related to attendance. I think work sessions and
We don't take attendance during work sessions. You only take it during council time.
should we take attendance during work sessions?
That's up to council.
I think we should.
I think we should too.
And Chair, so we'll be using the word encourage for both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just, it's a recognition that people have other jobs and there's
Sure.
travel and things come up.
Yeah.
So I think having the flexibility is a good thing. And if you're not able to have your camera on for whatever, if it's, and it's noble, I guess, that people participate when they're not feeling well. But I think for the most part, it's good for the public to see that their counselors are here and participating.
Okay.
Okay, so what are we
I would-
adding?
I would support taking the language from the one and adding it to the other meeting
Okay. Do I have,
so that it's the same between
more.
council time and council meeting
As far as
Work
roll call?
session.
and work sessions. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I see 4 nods here. Counselor Belcott, one way or the other? Okay, thumbs up all around.
okay. And then roll call, you want that added to work sessions?
Yes.
Do I have 3? Okay. And then do you want language added about the camera then that it is recommended that it's on or encouraged? You want that added as well?
I think encouraged is the word.
Encouraged on, okay.
Okay, anything else? Does this need to come back to us
So
or will it
let
just?
me ask council, do you want to see one more draft with these edits that you've discussed today? Or are you ready for this to be move forward with the public hearing?
Yeah, I think we're ready for it to move forward.
Okay. All right, we'll get that
Okay.
scheduled. Thank you.
Check. Okay, then moving on to 4.3 DEIS comments regarding Skamania County Quarry application. And we've seen the draft letter from Washougal. I have a question to start out with. It's to Skamania County Community Development Department. It's submitted by the agencies, and the suggestion is that Clark County be one of these agencies, which includes the City of Washougal, City of Camas, Port of Camas, Washougal, Washougal School District, and they have listed Clark County. So that's what we're deciding now, whether or not Clark County is included. And this would be, if we decide, it would be coming from the council, not one of our agencies. Is that correct?
I think they're sending one letter on behalf of all of the agencies. If the county council does not want to, if they wanted something different, or if you don't want to respond, that would be a separate, our name would be taken off of this.
Right, but does our agent, is it Public Works or whoever would be the one requesting this?
It would be the county council.
Or the county council?
Yes, and April's got, she's got some information too. She did reach out to Public Works to get their feedback on this, just to share their perspective if council's interested.
Great.
in.
I would like to hear from April. Is that, and then we can discuss. Okay. Take it away.
Good
April.
afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair and Council. April Firth, Deputy County Manager. And so, right, this request is that it's coming from council. That was the request from Washougal. Staff is fairly neutral on whether or not we comment. We don't normally comment on other jurisdictions' project applications, but it wouldn't hurt to recommend at least a cautionary statement about the condition of the bridge deck for the Highway 14 Camas Slough Bridge.
Okay, so that's one specific part of what is included in this. Is there, and then otherwise neutral?
Otherwise neutral. A lot of this does not affect the county. A lot of the things that were put in here are not county specific.
Okay,
Sure.
great. Yes, go ahead.
If that's the case, then I would just suggest that we send our own separate letter based on April's concerns, focused on that, as opposed to signing on to general comments from other jurisdictions. Which is totally, each jurisdiction can send their own comments. So maybe we should send the ones that are most pertinent to us. Which I agree, the Slough Bridge is the largest concern for me. And the capacity.
Right. I think I would agree with all of the comments that have been made, because the haul route, including Washougal, is impactful for a city in the county. How do others feel about this? Oh, and when are the comments due?
I do think that they're due fairly soon, because it did take a while for Washougal to draft.
I believe
I'll have
it's
to look
July
at that.
30th.
It's July
Tomorrow.
30th. It's tomorrow.
Mhm.
Okay. How do we feel about? Okay. So so there's one suggestion to write our own letter. I don't know if that would be, we'd be able to do that overnight. Go ahead.
I've got a question for April. I'm not extremely familiar with this process, even in our own county, let alone in Skamania. What I'm trying to understand is, just like Clark County, Skamania County would have a code that regulates this mine, and it's in the gorge, so it's also subject to the gorge code. Is that accurate?
Actually, this one is not in that overlay.
It is
So
not.
there
Okay.
are pieces of the full property that have the overlay, the gorge overlay on it, but not in which they would mine. So they will not be subject. I do not believe, from what I looked into, they would not be subject to the gorge.
Okay,
Yep.
but it is subject to Skamania County Code. So my
Yes.
question would be, does the Skamania County Code and their review system properly protect us? And is that what they're asking us to do, is fill the gaps where we're not potentially being protected by their code? Or are they advocating for higher standards than what their code is? I'm just trying to understand.
I believe these comments would be under their SEPA review. So, and that's something that is statewide, and then the effects that it would have, even not just on the subject property. So I think SEPA it encompasses more than just the
Okay, so
piece that
they're
it could-
asking us to support asking to expand the SEPA process to a degree beyond what is normally required to study.
just making comments of how it would affect us, how this mining operation might affect Clark County.
Okay. Thank you.
It's basically the haul route is how it's going to be affecting Clark County. And I don't know if people have had a
Precisely.
chance to actually read the letter, but it's, I think, a reasonable request. I'd be supportive of signing on to it.
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Again, I guess for me, it would be whether April has time to put together comments that are specific for Clark County and our concerns related to the Slough Bridge by tomorrow. If that is amenable to April, then I would support doing short comments just based on our questions and concerns.
I'd have to look into it. It would be Public Works. And if they did, I would probably assume that if they did, they would have to enter those comments from them. I think that it might be too late to get all of council, once we draft the comments, to get all council to sign our own comments.
Okay, I don't know if there's three one way or the other. Maybe people could indicate.
One more question.
Yes, please.
Will this, so this is, I'm trying to again understand. So this would be giving them information, asking them to study it, and then there would be like an environmental impact statement that would come out that could be reviewed and we could take part in any.
So there is a draft environmental impact statement.
So that one, okay,
that-
so
and
these
this
are
is
us
a
commenting
response
on
to
it.
that.
Okay,
And,
okay.
it's, I know I'd sent that to council. It's lengthy. There's a lot of tables and stuff, but it's over 200 pages. Yeah. So this is a response to that.
And I believe the comments would be all our participation would be entering comments into the record.
So I initially said that my gut instinct was to only comment on things that are impacting in our jurisdiction, but I view this just a little bit different now. Just having thought about it and processed it, it's a project that's taking place where we have no control over at all. It's not subject to our code, but it is coming into our jurisdiction. And I think we are different jurisdictions here in Clark County, but we are Clark County. So I think at this point, I would support going ahead and signing on to the letter with them.
Okay, there's two. Is there a third? And I would just note, they estimate 500 trips a day. 80% of those trips would be heading west into Clark County, and 80%, and that would be 50 trips a day. And they may not all be trucks, but the majority of them would be. So we're looking at a truck every 1.2 minutes. And, being familiar with Yakult Mountain Quarry, if anyone's driven up there when the quarry is operating, I think they have a truck that comes down every minute, and they end up going through downtown Battleground. So it's a significant impact along the haul route.
And also, just to add, one of the things that helped me change my mind is after reading it, what I was concerned about was that it was going to be like saying yes or no to the project, like we don't want this or we want this or whatever. And it really isn't that. It's really just stating there are going to be impacts here and we want that to be considered in the process.
Right. And it's very thoughtfully written, and they say up front, not taking a position on whether or not the quarry should be approved. Okay, I'm looking for Yes, go ahead.
I can be the third. I mean, I know this will be used by advocacy organizations to take a position, but I do like that it's saying that we are not taking a position. We're just getting further information. So if we can't do our own in the time period,
It's,
I
that's up
think
to council. If you want your own letter, we'll make it happen.
I would prefer our own letter if we can make it happen by tomorrow. Focus on our concerns.
Okay, so is there a third to sign on to this joint, these joint comments?
I would prefer our own letter as well. This just doesn't, I don't know, seems kind of vague to me.
Counselor Fuentes, which way are you going on this?
Well, I can see how, the immediate impact with Skamania being our neighbor to the east, and all of this will have an impact on us. I'm gonna support sending a letter that's specifically from Clark County. I think there are elements from this letter that can be removed that don't necessarily apply to us, like school transportation, for example. I think that's much more specific to Skamania County. So I'm going to go with the letter from Clark County.
Chair. Just in response, Councilor Fuentes, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but with it being due tomorrow, I just don't see that being feasible. One thing I would be okay with is saying that, we sign on to this and maybe having a separate letter sent from the county to address the issue of the SLU bridge specifically to make sure that that
Bridges.
gets commented on.
Item 2.3 of the draft this letter.
Oh, that is in there.
Yeah. Some
That's already in there.
page 3.
Okay, then we don't need to add that. All right,
Right.
yeah. So timing, I think, I hate being up against the clock, but
No, I agree with you. So do I.
And if it's just the bridge that we're concerned about, if you want to do your own separate letter, can I just use the language out of 2.3 and change it to instead of joint agencies, Clark
Copy
County?
paste. Yes.
Except for changing joint agencies do not, we'll say Clark County does that work?
Correct. That works for me.
So it's item 2.3 in the current letter on page 3. We'll pull out 2.3 West Kamaslu Bridge and corridor reliability and use that language for the county letter.
Yes, Chair. From my perspective, yes, but also April had suggested that we might have more customized language to propose versus the cut and paste language from this letter. And there's a few hours to make some minor changes to a very short letter. I would prefer to customize that language, but yes, use that as the basis.
how do we, as a council, agree on the changes though?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
You would have to provide
Don't we, in other
line direction.
circumstances, provide trust to our departments to write the appropriate letters based on this discussion? That's what I would propose.
Yeah. And I would ask Counselor Little, is there anything in this language that you want changed? Because when I heard April's comments, it was high level and talking about this bridge specifically. I don't think there was more custom language that was going to be recommended. So is there anything in this language that you would like changed?
April, did you have anything besides that cut and paste language?
No, it was pretty high level as far as just a cautionary comment about the Highway 14 Kamaslu Bridge and talking about the truck trips, which is not any different than I think what 2.3
Chair,
says.
if I could. Not sure if
Yes,
you can see
Ken,
me.
please go ahead.
Yeah, Ken Later, Public Works Director. Just to give a little more context around this, they did analyze several different routes, some of which were on county roads. This final route that's being proposed, as by the time it gets into Clark County, is really using Highway 14, and I think that's probably the main reason we have a fairly neutral position, because it's a state route, and those trips, kind of come down the state route, and whether they disperse onto county roads, it's a little bit unlikely, but we wouldn't ever look at, what the destination trips are, just what the total trips are coming in from that site. So for us, that's really kind of where we end up with this neutral position. And the concerns that we've raised really just have to do with knowledge about the deck on the Slough Bridge and how difficult it has been for the state to maintain it in a safe condition. And it does look like there's some identification of that in this communication from all the agencies. But that's really the only thing that we were focused on. So.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, that sounds good. Although just from that discussion, it sounds like there is some customized language that we have specific to the condition of the bridge itself and the impact that these additional loads will have on that, on our potential response and fixed time to do repairs. So I would just like to have, I'd like to give it to the agency to make any kind of customized language specific to the condition of the bridge and our
That is included
required.
partly in the comments.
it's
It
general.
talks about paving and deck work unrelated to the quarry washout. It's in the first paragraph.
Yeah, I just want to allow the agency to add anything if it's appropriate.
Are you talking about Public Works?
Yeah, public
Thank you.
works. Yeah, sorry.
So council, what's your preference? Do you want us to tweak as we see fit? Or do you want just this language and just tweak it for Clark County?
I just come back to, I don't think there's any harm in any of the language that was proposed by the other jurisdictions. And this is a chance for us to join with them and support them and build and take, do some relationship building. If we don't have a third counselor that's willing to support that, then I definitely would be willing to have our own letter addressing just the WashDOT, but I don't see any harm in signing on with the other smaller cities here.
Right. I would agree with that. It's an opportunity to support the concerns that Washougal, the port, the school district, and Camas have related to this project. Not to say yay or nay on the project itself, but just to consider these impacts that they may not have fully considered with the draft EIS.
And again, I think it's important to note that we're not saying that, you need to mitigate in any which way or form. We're just saying, please check into this, look into this and weigh the impacts when in your decision making.
Okay, it's sounding to me, if I could sum up, that there's 3 that agree with doing our own letter, largely taking from that one item that mentions the Slough Bridge, and we are trusting.
Chair.
Yes.
As I say here, and I process this information, and and valid concerns have been brought up, and I think about the concerns of our community members in Camas and the city of Washougal, and I agree. I think that that this won't have a negative impact on the county. But it can go far in supporting our community members in East County. So I will be changing my vote to support as it is, the letter as it is.
Okay, we'll just sign on.
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
And related to that, if we were going to, it sounds like we are going to join this letter, I would want to know more information, like how does this impact the resources that we need for gravel and such for our county roads? Is it a positive impact to our community? This is kind of looking at what are all the negatives. I would want to look at what are the positives of bringing in new resources into our county. That's not in this letter.
I don't think it's in the draft environmental impact statement either.
Right. But that's why if we're signing on to someone else's comprehensive letter, to me, it's not comprehensive.
It's just in response to the draft EIS. Okay, well, I think we've made a decision just to sign on.
Okay, thank you.
And if we could thank them for the effort they took to include us, that would be great. Okay, then new business. We're moving on to 2025 financial statement. We have a whole team. please come forward. Just let us know what we need to be looking at first.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm Mark Gasaway, Clark County Finance Director from the Auditor's Office. And we're here today to present several financial reports, including the annual financial report, or our ACFR. Also, we're going to be presenting the popular annual financial report, our second quarter 2026 report, the June monthly report, and the impact fee report. So I'm going to start off looking at the ACFR, the annual financial report for 2025. I brought water with me this time. And I'm just going to be looking at select. I mean, this is a 240-page report, so I'm going to be looking at select pages from that, and we'll be highlighting those on the screen so that I will indicate where those pages are. If you would like to flip through the electronic version that you have, and we also have paper copies as well. So for any of you that would like paper copies of any of these reports, we can provide those, or anyone in the public as well. We have paper copies of these reports available for you. So I'll be briefly presenting highlighted sections of the 2025 ACFR. My colleagues, and I'll let them introduce themselves when we get to them, will be presenting the remaining reports. First, I'd like to start off by thanking our financial services staff for the preparation of these reports. There's a lot of work that goes into these. It takes a large portion of our efforts in our office to prepare these reports. And also, I want to thank the finance staff from the departments across the county, because we would not be able to produce these reports on our own. We rely a lot on those finance professionals that are in other departments. And I want to thank them for their diligence. Although they do not report directly to financial services, we have a very strong collaboration with these finance, with each of the departments and the offices and the finance people that are within them. And I want to thank them for the willingness to help follow the guidance that we provide for them. So if you could go to the next slide. And can you zoom in on that? Yes. Oh, we'll center it. So this is the first page of our annual financial report. And this is called our transmittal letter. And I have some highlighted sections in here that I wanted to comment about briefly. As required by RCW, the county's annual financial report is prepared on behalf of the county council and the citizens of the county by the auditor's office. So this isn't our report. This isn't the auditor's office report. This is the county's report that we're preparing on your behalf. And that's why it's addressed, if you look right up at the top, to the Honorable Board of County Councilors and to the citizens of Clark County. So I wanted to point that out, that we're doing this as part of our responsibilities under the state law to prepare this report on your behalf. For more than 40 years, the county's annual financial report has been reviewed by the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, and received a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. That is the highest recognition available in for governmental financial statements. So there is a legacy in this county of financial reporting excellence for over 40 years. This 2025 financial report has also been submitted to GFOA for evaluation, and we anticipate that it will continue, we'll continue receiving the certificate. So I wanted to point that out, that this isn't just a one-time thing that we do, or even a short-lived thing. It has been a legacy of financial reporting excellence that this county has had. If you could go, yes, to that second paragraph, if I could direct your attention to the second paragraph. So it's the responsibility of management to establish internal controls that are designed to protect county assets from loss, theft, and misuse. It is the daily task of financial services to ensure that the county revenues are properly accounted for and every expenditure is audited to ensure that it follows federal and state laws and is spent as authorized by the county council. Every expenditure that we make has to match up with what you have approved in the budgetary process. And we ensure that those expenses are being recorded appropriately. So we work with all county departments on a continuous basis to ensure that the best financial practices are in place and internal controls are functioning as designed. In addition, the Auditor's Office Audit Services Group reviews programs for effectiveness and efficiency, and we report the findings that they have to the County Council. There's a misconception among certain individuals in the public that there is waste, fraud, and abuse in the county's finances. I'm here to assure you and the citizens of Clark County that this is not the case. How can you receive this assurance? I direct your attention to the highlighted section in the third paragraph. And it's kind of hard to see the highlights on the screen here, but you can see them on your screen. Each year, the county is audited by independent auditors from the State Auditor's Office to ensure that we are properly doing our job. So not only is the statement being prepared by the independently elected Auditor's Office, we are also being audited independently by the State Auditor's Office to ensure that our work is appropriate. The results of the State Auditor's examination conclude that the county's financial statements fairly present the financial condition of the county, that it is properly accounting for grants, and that management has adequately instituted a system of internal controls. The most recent audit concluded by SAO, which is this financial statement that you're being presented today, has no reportable findings. So in other words, their examination concluded that there are no reportable findings that are needed. And this has been the case for several years. This is not, again, just not a one-off. You can read in the paper recently, local organizations have struggled not only to complete their financial statements, but to complete their financial statements without audit findings. And our organization is one of the few that over the last several years has not had any audit findings. So I just want to pause here for a second. This is the gist of what this transmittal letter or this opening statement has. And I wanted to see if you have any questions or comments about what we go through for the preparation of this report or the results of this report. So I'll pause here for a second before I go on.
Well, I would just like to respond to what you're opening here, and thank you very much for bringing up this misconception about waste, fraud, and abuse. And it goes back decades, really, as a political cudgel that's used, and it's unfortunate. So I'm really glad that you're making it crystal clear what a great legacy we have.
Thank you. Okay. So
Councilor Belcott has a comment.
yes, thank you.
Mark, I've personally never heard any complaints myself. Do they send them directly to you?
I will say yes to that, but not just to me. We get inferences in the office constantly.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh. Well, if it makes you feel any better, we get lots of complaints about all sorts of things on the council.
oh, I know, believe me. Okay, so if I could, yeah. Again, this is the introduction. I want to move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so the next area that I wanted to point out, and this actually starts on page 13 of the report. Again, I'm not going to go through all 250 pages, but I wanted to point out certain sections. In page 13 of the report, there's a section called Management's Discussion and Analysis. And if you only have time to read one section of this report, or if as you're going through the report and glancing through it, I would recommend that you read Management Discussion and Analysis, because this is going to give you an overview and a very high-level perspective of what's going on financially here in the county. So the MD&A, as it states in the opening paragraph, it provides an overview of the analysis. Recently, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB, has issued a new pronouncement, GASB 103, that has required the way that we kind of look at the analysis in our financial statements. Before, we would indicate what had changed. Okay, so what had changed between prior years and current years and things like that. Now the emphasis is being put on not only what has changed, but why has it changed. And so you will find in the management discussion analysis a lot of the explanations of why things are changing. So you can understand better what's happening from year to year in the financial statements. So that would be my recommendation for council to spend a few minutes looking at this section. And then if you have additional questions, you're always welcome to contact a member of our staff. We are more than happy to help you better understand these. Or again, this report is prepared and addressed to the citizens. If citizens have a question, they are welcome to call us and ask questions about what is happening financially here at the county. So, and I'll pause one more time real quick if there's any questions on that piece.
I know there's been some communications and work that's been done related to the Charter Review Commission. Is this new information that could be provided to them?
All of the information that we have provided, the financial analysis, has either come from an existing report that we have, or if it's current year data, we pull that out of our financial system that we create this report with. And so we are compiling information depending on the request, based on that specific request. So we're not typically creating new information. We may just be gathering it and presenting it in a more logical format for them. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm just wondering if this is information that could be provided to them.
Sure.
I mean, they're their own entity.
Absolutely.
But I think the more information they have, the better informed they will be in making their recommendations.
Absolutely. Our financial reports, our annual financial reports, are all published on our website. They're all available. But I will be the first to admit they are difficult to go through, especially for someone who doesn't have a lot of familiarity with the technical terms, and we try not to use them, and we try to explain them as best we can. But if you're not familiar with the report, it's a big report. I mean, 250 pages is a lot to go through and try and pull out certain pieces of information. So we're more than happy to assist with that. And then the last 2 pages of the slides that I have here, I'm just going to give you examples of those things that you can find in the report. And so if we could go to the next slide. Okay, this is just an example of one of the schedules that you can have. And I chose the general fund. This is called a schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And this is for the general fund. All of the major funds have a schedule like this. And what you'll see in here are columns. The first column is what the original budget is. That's the budget that council has approved. So at the beginning of the year, we start with our original budget. The second column is the final budget. During the year, changes are made. We have a fall supplemental, and that gets reflected in that second column. So that's the final budget, or the budget that we end up with at the end of the year. The next column is a variance. So it shows you what changed during the year between the budgets. The next column is what actually is being reported. So as we record transactions throughout the year, in these categories, we are tracking them to ensure that they're first correctly recorded in the correct categories and within the budget that the council has set. And then the last column is the variance. So what was different from what our final budget shows versus what we actually spent. And again, each major fund has a schedule like this. And you can go and look through and look at it. Again, if there's a question about what happened, we are more than happy to do that. We try and explain that. This is in a section, this is actually on page 107. And this is in a section that's called required supplemental information. And so you're able to see these changes in budget and where we actually ended up for the year. The next schedule that I want to show you, it's the last schedule that we're going to talk about. Ooh, that's really bad to read up there. So at the end of our financial report, we have a section called is the statistical section. And this is a 10-year look at different aspects of the county. They can be, in this case, this is the fund balance. The first grouping is the general fund, but then it has the rest of the fund balance over the years, and it can show you the changes. We also have information in there like unemployment history over the last 10 years. Our major employers are in this section. So you can see how that has evolved over the last 10 years. Our FTE count for different departments, how that has evolved over the last 10 years. So in the statistical section, you can get I guess a glimpse or a view or an indication of where we've been and where we're at today. And so all of that information is available in the currently published financial reports that we have. The ACFR, again, it takes a lot of effort to put this together each year. It takes even a lot more effort to put it together in such a manner that we're able to receive this certificate of achievement. But it has been a practice here at the county. We have very qualified professional staff that are very good at putting this together. And again, I commend them for the work that they do. And again, if council has any questions or comments on this particular report, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, I'll introduce my colleagues.
Any questions from council at this time? Thank you very much, Mark.
Okay, I'm going to pass the baton over to Mitchell Kelly. He is our reporting analysis manager, and he's going to talk about the other reports, beginning with the popular annual financial report, which is one of the favorites.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Yes, Mitchell Kelly, reporting and analysis manager, and I have with me Amy. If you want to introduce yourself.
Amy Seibel, Senior Management Analyst
On the reporting team. So in an effort to make the financial statements accessible to more of the population in the county, we have also prepared the popular annual financial report. That's not, could we? Okay. This report simplifies the financial information in a more consumable manner and is also available. If any counselor would like copies of these, we can definitely provide them. We also, on advice of council, provide these in the libraries for people to be able to review. And I wanted to go over some of the key parts of the popular annual financial report. The first page gives a summary of the county. If you continue on to the next page, gives some high level of the top 5 employers in the county, our government and high level numbers. One of the updates that we've made with this statement, if you continue on to the next, so this is the statement of net position. This is county-wide, much like a balance sheet where we give a high level of all of the activity within the county and a condensed, more consumable way for people to understand high level. We also provide a little narrative about what has been happening within the county-wide. The next page is the changes in net position countywide, which talks about, it's basically an income statement that talks about the revenues and expenses within the certain categories that the county recognizes the expenses and the different revenue types that we receive. And also describes the growth of the county, the county-wide. This is including all of the 70 plus funds that the county maintains. The next page talks about the revenues by source. As you can note, the property taxes county-wide is the largest revenue source. And then on the bottom, it talks about the expenses by function, and public safety is the largest expense by countywide, and it's listed as $127 million across all funds, including general fund and other special revenue funds that the county maintains.
I just want to point out a couple of things. All of the numbers, all of the financial information that we put in the popular annual financial report is coming from our larger report. So the numbers will match. They're just more in a summarized form, presented slightly different so that they're a little bit more readable. And I did want to point out, public safety and general government can be a little bit confusing, right?
Yes.
So in our definition of how these expenditures are categorized, in general government, that also includes courts. So public safety is primarily the sheriff's office and jail. And then everything else that we would consider public safety is actually in general government. And that's by definition of how our state auditors require us to classify expenses. So.
Sure. Mark, really quick, what's the breakdown in public safety between the sheriff's office and jail services? Do you have that by any chance?
Just going by memory, I believe the sheriff's office is around 45 million and the jail is about 35 million.
Well, in just general fund.
Yeah, in the
possibly.
general fund.
But then we have
There's
other funds.
funds.
We have other funds that are dedicated to public safety, the public safety sales tax fund, and other funds where public safety, jail, and also the sheriff's office are supported by these other special revenue funds.
No, and that's fine. I'm not necessarily asking about the revenue. I'm talking about the expense. So when we're looking at public safety, it makes up $127 million. The 127, what percentage is the jail? What percentage is the sheriff's office?
Yeah, I can get you more specific information about that. It's predominantly the sheriff's office, and then the jail is close behind. It's not dramatically one way or the other. As we've built up the sheriff's office and staffing, that has consumed more of the expenses throughout the county. But in the history, it's been fairly comparable.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question here related to general government, and included is prosecuting attorney, district superior court, I imagine public defense as well. How much of the general government goes toward those functions, which I think in my mind is all part of
the public safety system? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So about half of that number is related to those types of services.
Great. Thank you.
And Chair, if I can just, based on the budget presentation for 2026 budget, the sheriff's office expense budget is about 46.3 million. The jail's about 39.4 million. General fund is 221.9 million for general fund.
So yeah, as we've expanded the public safety, that has grown, which is what we've noted in the recent past. Are there any other questions about?
Just real quick, Chair, it's okay.
Yep.
All right,
yep.
thank you. Is there a way, like I know that there's the way that you have to report it because of the state, but can we add additional information to illustrate that? I think
Yes, absolutely.
especially as we deliver messaging on the jail and the entire law and justice system itself, I think it's important that everybody can align what they are hearing to
Yes.
what they're seeing.
Yes.
So if there's a way we could illustrate that in the future, that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yes, we look for feedback. This report in particular, although we have submitted it to the Government Finance Officers Association for consideration of their award for this particular report, we can make changes. This particular report is more flexible. The ACFR report, which Mark described, has more required reporting standards that we have to follow. And this one, we have we can be more descriptive about what the specifics are. The next tab, the next page is something that we've updated with the general fund. We've made more charts to make it more understandable and consumable. So the public and readers can see where the general fund receives its revenue, and also where it has expenses related to the different functions that we've described. And based on the recommendation, we can make changes to this chart, this pie chart, to identify the portions of the public safety system that are considered general government.
Great. I think that would be great to do, and it is very much in light of what we're going to be requesting
Yes,
related to
absolutely.
the jail and the sheriff. Yep.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, we can make it so that you can see what portion is related to jail and what portion is related to the sheriff's office, as we have identified here with the expenses of public safety. We can also update that so that it's more identifiable. Yes,
I
Kathleen.
just have a quick question on the bottom right pie there, general government and the public safety. Is the support for public safety included, like the HR budget allocations that are included? Are those included in the public safety portion, or are they under general? So just for council, then it's saying here it's 102, is that 0.8 million? It's actually a little bit more that actually goes towards public safety, because you have the general services that support public safety.
Right, the indirect.
Yes.
Yep.
The way that this chart is designed, it's just the departmental expenses and their category, how they're being categorized. So any allocation outside of one of the internal service, that would not be reflected in that pie chart.
Okay, any other questions?
I think we're good.
Okay, moving on then. This demonstrates the collection of property taxes, and also has an illustration of where the average property tax collection and how it's broken out by the different jurisdictions that receive the property taxes. So as you can see, this is how, on average, because each parcel is going to be slightly different depending on the jurisdictions that correspond to the particular residence. But on average, this is how the distribution of property taxes are collected and then distributed to the other agencies that we collect property tax on behalf of.
This is my favorite page of the report.
Oh, okay.
And I have taken copies around to neighborhood association meetings, and this is the page that I hold up.
Okay.
Just
wonderful.
so people understand.
And I should note that this is going to change next year, because the way the state has now allocated their school levies, they'll be combined into a single number, as well as the increase in the library levy. So this is a prior years, that 2026 will be will reflect a different
Right.
Yeah.
distribution. So
I'll look forward to that.
Yes, we update this every year based on the current year that we're reporting on statistics. The next page I just wanted to go over, we've updated specific things that have happened within the county recently related to public safety. And then below we talk about support for the unhoused. So the public safety sales tax, which was approved by council in or approved by the public, the vote of the public was in 2022. And then council supported a Council-Matic in 2025 initially, and then we've started collecting. We just started our first collection in June of just this past month, where we collected $1.1 million for public safety, law and justice sales tax. And I know that there are discussions about that budget and the other funding and uses of that money, but we just wanted to make the public aware that those are the support for the law and justice funding throughout the county. And then also the activity that we've had for supporting the unhoused. And this section is provided by the Department of Community Services that oversees that. The final page talks about the capital projects and long-term debt that we currently have within the county and are our bond rating, and talks briefly about some of the large projects that we completed in the 25 year. So this report and based on the council's recommendations, we'll be making some updates to this report for distribution. But this is another report that we want to provide to the community so that they have access to the financial information that the county has produced and can know how their tax dollars are being spent.
And we will have copies available for council to take with them and use in your community meetings. We have placed copies as well in the libraries so that people can pick them up there. Because of the popularity of this report, I think we'll just have a stack of them in your office and you can pick them up as you go. So
that sounds good. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is great visuals and charts. I just want to point out a couple of things that might be confusing to just regular folks. On page 2 at the bottom, it says that the total budget is approximately 750 million. But then on page 6, you talk about total revenue collected is about 500 million. So immediately I would think as a regular person, what about the 250? And then the next page, it talks about general fund revenue of 214 million. So in my head, it just wouldn't be adding up. So that's one thing. And then on page 8, where you have the dollar split up, which I've used as well, in the narrative above, it says about 7% of the money collected is to fund services provided directly by Clark County. But then in the chop up of the dollar, you've got one chunk that's 8 cents that says Clark County, and then another that says 5 cents that says county roads. So like those things confuse me when I look at that because it sounds like we're saying different numbers and they're not adding up.
Yeah.
But if you could kind of explain some of those, that would be helpful.
Sure. So for the first number that you are referring to, the county budget, that is the budget entirely. And some of the budget that we have adopted is fund. So one fund paying another fund. So the expense and the revenue wouldn't necessarily be external. It would be just internal activity. So
yeah, and I sort of get that, but the regular, well, maybe all the residents understand this, but me. But you probably want to say that.
That's a fair statement. So we definitely can make some updates and address those comments. Yes.
About the others, like the 7 cents versus the 8 and the 5.
Yes, I can look into that more because we can look into that more.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Councillor Young?
Yes, just wanted to thank you for this. Like, this is huge, and I appreciate you taking our feedback into this. This is hard because the budget is so complex and it is so enormous and it's so many pages. But the way that you have things and the particular items that you've chosen to place in here, I think is a real benefit to the public to be able to look at and get a really good snapshot of some of the most important things without having to dive through paperwork galore. So just wanted to thank you for this report. It's really good work.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And then I didn't answer one of your questions, Councilor Little, about general fund. General fund has the most flexibility. Most other funds are restricted in their use. So we identified general fund because that is the fund of the whole county that has most flexible use and supports the most activities within the county wide. So that's why we pull it out and identify it separately. It's a part of that 746 million expense budget.
Is it also part of the 400 on the page preceding? Separate.
So yes. So preceding, yes, it is. So yeah.
Yeah, just further explanations or visuals just so people know what's what.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. If there are no other questions, then we'll proceed on to the next section. We'll be talking about the second quarterly report.
I just want to make a comment real quickly. One of the efforts that we're trying to make in the auditor's office is give you timely information. And we've committed to have a quarterly report within the month following the end of that quarter. And so we're kind of bringing all this together. Typically, we don't have an annual report or a popular annual financial report to report with this. But I felt that it was particularly timely considering we're going to be going into our budget process soon. And so we wanted to give you an update of what we're seeing, what we have through the first 6 months of 2026 as you go in and start thinking about that budgetary process. And so we wanted to spend a few minutes and talk about 2026. So we're kind of shifting gears now. Our financial reporting that we've already finished and sent off to be reviewed is done. Now we're going to talk about the current. Okay.
So thank you. Yes. So this first section talks about the general fund year to date, the revenues by source, identifying property tax, sales and use tax revenue, and then other revenue. And then we also have it listed there. Okay. Yes. As a growth rate from the prior year. So you can notice, and on advice of council, we also included the inflation rate. That is the calendar year from the June prior to the current June. So from July to July, rather. So the inflation rate was 3.5%, according to the CPI Consumer Price Index, and our growth rate of revenue was 2.45%. A couple of things to note: the property tax has increased at 3%, and then our sales and use tax has actually increased year over year by so far year to date of 7.21%, and predominantly that's related to the different items that are now taxable that was changed in October of last year, and now we're recognizing all of that collection that was changed at a legislative level. Are there any questions about this revenue section?
Sure. Not a question. I would just like to thank you for this. This is, I think, if there happened to be a reporter in the room, this would be really something that the public could benefit from going directly to. This really illustrates very simply the structural deficit. It just shows it plain as day. Inflation was 3.5%. The growth in our funding was 2.45%. So the funding that we have year over year on this is less than it was the previous year because its buying power has been reduced by more than it's increased. And then you're going to come back down to the expenses, which is another important part. So I'll save my comments for that part.
Okay. So any other questions or comments?
And one last thing, this was with 1% increase, correct?
This was, yes, this was
with
yes,
the
with the
1%.
1% increase.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just reporting what has actually been collected. So as of this year, that was the 1% was adopted by the council. So this is including that. Yes. And then, so the next section, we talk about the actual expenses to budget. There's a couple of things to note here. First of all, the growth of the expenses compared to the inflation rate. Our growth of expenses has outpaced the inflation rate. And a part of that is related to the county being able to hire the positions that have been budgeted, but that weren't in position in the prior year. So that number is high, you can note, but then taken in consideration as well with the part on the other side, you can see that salaries and benefits are about 50%. So although we experienced a growth, that's predominantly because the positions that were not filled in the prior have now been filled, or the positions that were created are now filled. And our budgeted salaries and expenses are tracking exactly where you would anticipate them to be at 50%. And then if you continue on supplies and services and other charges and then transfers, those are trending a little, that we have a balance remaining to be spent, but that it's not, there's more, it's not less than 50%, which is what we would want to see, that we haven't overspent our transfers and supplies and services. We have sufficient to spend the rest of the year. So are there any questions about that?
Go ahead.
Thanks. Just my second line of comments on this is I think nuances are important. So when you go back to our income growth, that was including a 1%, and it was also including a one-time boon that a windfall that we're receiving because the state changed, increased the amount of items and services that are taxable. So we have an unusually high increase that year, and we still didn't keep up with inflation. Then you look at the growth rate of our expenses, inflation 3.5%, our expenses have gone up 10.45%, and there's a nuance there, which you had mentioned earlier, that we filled some vacancies, so that does account for some of that. But our expenses are going up much higher than inflation. And not only that, every single year, the state passes things that add new expenses that we have to comply with. And so just this page is perfect. And I think it illustrates very, very well the issue of the 1%, the issue of the structural deficit in a very plain way that people can see it and understand it. So thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions? Moving on to the backside of this report, we've identified just a couple of funds of note. Our road fund, for example, is about 65% of budgeted revenue has been or is remaining to be collected. They predominantly receive property taxes, so half of it would have been received in the first half of the year, and then in October we'll receive the second half. And then also grants, which are related to the projects that happen during the summer predominantly. So we will see a lot of this revenue collected in the second half of the year based on the revenue that they receive from grants. And same with the expenses. Most of the road projects in the road fund are done during the summer times. So this, although this indicates that there's about 70% budget remaining to be spent, that is something that's we would expect to see at this time, because the first half of the year isn't when the predominant of their projects are billed and spent. And then moving on to community development, every year general fund sends a transfer to community development to cover the costs of the unfunded portions of community development. Council has made it an effort to adjust the rates based on this, the need for general fund to fund community development fund activities and specific permits that are that don't recover their own costs. Because of that, we've seen a drop in the amount of money that general fund is transferring to community development to cover those costs, because the fees have changed and been adjusted to more fully cover their expenses. And at this time, we're estimating that there will be another reduction in the transfer from that general fund will need to provide to community development based on council's actions. And then the final fund that we identify here is Public Safety Sales Tax Fund. We've collected about half of the budgeted revenue, and then also expended about half of what that fund has been budgeted to spend. That has helped the county meet and improve the public safety expenses and funds officers, the body camera program, and other public safety initiatives.
And this was passed, what year was this passed?
The public safety sales tax was passed in 22.
22.
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
We didn't begin collecting.
Yeah, we started collecting in 2023.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, and we can continue. We can do this also with the law and justice sales tax. That was Councilmatic. If you would like, we can describe how that is trending as well moving forward. We definitely want this report and this information, whatever council wants us to report on, we definitely can adjust these reports to council's desires.
Thanks.
Yes. Okay. Are there any questions? If not, we'll move on to the monthly financial update. We send this at the end of each month. This month, you'll see a lot of the same numbers because they're all the same from the quarterly report. As noted, we've noted our general sales and use tax has a 7.2% growth because of the change of the taxability of certain items. This also confirms below that the personnel services and overtime are the major drivers that we discussed about in the first part of the quarterly report, that those are the significant drivers of the increase in the expenses in general fund. And then down below, you can also take a note of the cash balances at the end of the year, at the end of the month of June, and compare them to the prior year.
I have a question related to the overtime. Is there a particular department where you see more overtime or not? And Mark, you're nodding your head. Could you elaborate? Oh, you can't. Your mic's not on.
Sorry. Both in the sheriff's office and the jail, they're the primary drivers of overtime in this report. So
This may not be something you can answer, but I would anticipate if we have more staff that that overtime number would go down.
And we've done some more in depth analysis of overtime to try and understand it a little bit better to see where those are coming from. We've been able to kind of split the increase in two categories. One, there's been an increase in wages, the amount that we're actually paying, and then there's been an increase in activity. And it's about a 60-40 split. 60% of it is due to the increase in wages, where 40% of it is coming from the increase in activity or more hours actually worked. And so, you know, we're trying to better understand that. We're looking at it harder because, again, it's a big driver. And as we hire more staff, we're anticipating that some of that overtime will decrease. They won't have to fill open staff with our open shifts with the existing staff. They should be able to fill those shifts with new officers. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to build our reporting up to.
Be a good thing for the council to monitor.
Yeah. One of the reasons, just real quickly, why we show cash position is because in some of these funds, if you were to look at a fund balance, some of these funds have significant assets involved. And that the way you look at fund balance would include those physical assets. So what we've tried to do is eliminate that by showing a cash balance. So this is actually the cash balance on hand. And, you know, you kind of look at that from the current year versus the current year prior month or the prior year, same month, and to see where we're at. Well, you can see in general fund, you know, last year at this time, we had, you know, $7 million more in cash. So we have spent that down at the same point in time this year. A lot of that was because, one, we know that we used $2 million in 2025 to balance our budget. We spent $2 million more than we brought in revenue in 2025. And you can see that we could be trending that way again this year in 2026, where we're going to spend more in general fund than we'll actually bring in. And so those cash balances, to me, they're a really good indicator of the direction the fund's going. So.
Thanks. Go ahead, Counselor.
I don't know if it belongs on this report, but one of the things that I would be interested in when we look at overtime, I mean, overtime is hours that would need to be worked regardless. And what I'm curious is, like, if we had the manpower available to where we didn't have to have those hours as overtime, like, you know, what the actual You know what I'm saying? Like the difference between what a normal wage would be versus the fact that we're paying them overtime, so that you can see like the actual cost of it being overtime rather than regular paid hours.
I'm sorry. And as we staff up, particularly in the sheriff's office, I think we'll be able to give some meaningful analysis on this, because as the sheriff stated, you know, the first dozen or so that he hires, he'll be able to use to fill existing shifts that are already happening, but you're having to use your workforce now. And so the current workforce has to fill those existing shifts, and pay the overtime premium to do that. Whereas by hiring more officers, you'll be able to pay them at a regular hourly rate rather than an overtime premium. And so those are the kind of things that we're hoping to be able to benefit from with this additional staffing. So
Kathleen, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, I will say the jail is almost fully staffed right now. They have MOUD vacancies, and they've had some retirements, but they've had an anomaly, mostly I think it was in February, March, with a significant number of folks that needed to go to the hospital. And when that happens, you have to have certain number that go with them, and then they have to backfill with mandatory. That was an unusual uptick that they actually called to say, hey, just so you know, we're facing this for the last 2 months that is outside of just filling for vacancies or people on leave. So but that we can get those numbers too and pull them out, but it is for that service level for hospital visits.
It's interesting because to Kathleen's point, we can identify by month when the overtime is occurring, and you can point to a specific month and you can go ask, well, what happened that month? And as she said, in certain months, there are events occurring that we just, have to cover. And so we're hoping to provide, again, more meaningful analysis and understand better what's happening, rather than just look at a large number like you see in this report and go, geez, overtime's up 29%. Why are we having that? So.
Question?
Yeah, just a really quick question. I believe we started collecting the Affordable Housing Fund in April. So Q2, correct?
So the tax was collected beginning April. The first time we received a distribution was in June.
So where is that? I don't see the line item here.
That isn't listed here.
Okay.
We've received about $800,000 in the month of June, and we can add it if you'd like, as well as the Law and Justice Support Sales Tax Fund. We can also add those.
I think it'd be worth being able to see that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. So the final report that we're just presenting to council is the impact fee report. This report details the impact fees that we collect, and then also the manner in which they have been spent and allocated and spent for the specific jurisdictions and areas of where the impact fees were collected. So there's several types of impact fees, traffic impact fee, park impact fee, and also school impact fees. We have separated them into these different districts that you can identify within this report. This report contains a lot of detail and a lot of information. And we'd be happy to talk more about this report and with Public Works in another session, but this is the report that we're presenting for the use of the impact fees that we've collected and then how they have been spent over a 10-year period.
And this is a required report. We're required to report this to council. Typically, we don't spend a lot of time on it because a lot of the spending of the impact fees is managed through Public Works and through their 6-year plan. And so you'll see that incorporated. The use of these impact fees are incorporated into their 6-year tip. The school districts, although you'll see that on here, we really don't have any control over how those are spent. So, but it's part of the requirement for us to report to council. So.
Yes, because we collect the funds and then we report on the funds. We distribute them to the school districts when the impact fees are paid. we remit the funds to Public Works, Parks, or the school districts, and then work with them to report the spending or the allocation and spending of those funds.
So in looking at this where there's the larger numbers, that would be where there's been more development to collect those.
That's
impacts.
correct. And as you proceed throughout the report, you can also see what the balance is in each of those funds. So some of the funds with a lot of development have been spending a lot of the funds quickly, or some of them have projects that are in the future that they will spend the funds. So those are all detailed within this this detailed report.
One of the things that we want to show on here and demonstrate is if we have an issue with funds after a 10-year period, whether we're able to spend those or not. And so based on how our county has programmed the expenditure of those funds, whether they're part of the growth plan or part of the TIP, will indicate if we get to the point where we're past the time limit, then technically those would need to be refunded back to those that contributed them. So hopefully we don't get to that point.
Sure. I was actually going to ask about that because I remember, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, to be honest with you, but I remember having a conversation that we had some impact fees that were getting close to being needed to be returned. Did that ever need to take place?
No,
Okay.
no, we've never had to do that. And right now we don't anticipate it
Okay.
happening. So
I'm reading page 7, and if I'm understanding this correctly, this is illustrating this issue on page 7, right? In that 2027. So any dollars in the 2027 column here need to be allocated and used by 2027. Otherwise, they need to be returned to
That's right. Yes.
the projects that.
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Well, council, that's a lot. Sorry, we dumped on, all this on you in one session, but we appreciate your time. Again, we're always available for questions and hopefully can, meet the needs that you have. I know that they're not always packaged nicely into reports like this, but we're available to, help you understand it and help citizens understand it. And, we're here to serve. So.
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to mention something. I think this particular subject that we're discussing right now, I think is one of the most important that we have in a public meeting, so that our citizens can see, the financial affairs of the county in a snapshot. And I'm honestly wondering if in the future, if we ought to consider holding this meeting in a different fashion than just new business, just to try to be able to get more emphasis on the importance of this meeting and try and hopefully garner more participation and people chiming in and listening. I just, we don't have to deal with that right now, but just something to consider.
We did have a couple people chime in during public comment period, but that might not be what you have in mind. Other comments or suggestions? Just along those lines, is there a press release or something that goes out related to the popular annual financial report, just to let folks know it's available and where they can find it?
Yes, we have issued press releases in the past, and we're planning to issue a press release.
Great.
Is it communicated on our social media platforms as well?
I can make sure that it is
Yeah,
communicated on our social media.
I think it's important that people see this. And to Councillor Little's point, I think it needs to be a little easier for, just a regular community member to be able to understand it. Even for us, sometimes it can be a little bit confusing because the math doesn't seem to match up. In addition, I think one of the things that is important to communicate is the difference between, inflation, which is, in the last 12 months has been 3.5. I don't know where it's tracking. this year alone, but I imagine it's higher. But I think it's important that people know that people see that expenses are rising, inflation, we're not keeping up with inflation. And so people can certainly appreciate that.
Great. Thanks for all of your comments. Really, thanks so much for this report. Oh, we have a hand up in the audience. Please come forward.
Thank you, Chair. Just for your reference, I wanted to mention that I did forward the annual reports as well as the quarterly report to the Charter Review Commissioners. So they have already received a copy of those reports.
Great. Thanks for doing that. Well, and thank you for all of your hard work, and please pass on our gratitude to all the financial professionals that have helped pull all of this together. We're grateful, and thanks to the council. It's been a good discussion. Okay. Then moving on to councilor reports. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report on? Yes,
I
go
did
ahead.
have a amendment here adding the pro cons statements, 5.2.
Oh, did I miss something here?
Yeah, it was the amendment that I asked. It's been a
Oh,
while.
5.2. I'm sorry. Here we go.
No
I just
worries.
didn't recognize it because I wrote it on my. Okay, go ahead. Pro and con.
Yes, so for our ballot measures that will be going on the November ballot, we need to do or solicit pro-con statements. The names are due to the elections department next week. I will say I believe we can have up to 3 for either side. Council can just name who they are, or you can leave it blank and it'll go through a different process. I do want to share that Ann Donnelly, who is a very active community member in support of law and justice, is very interested in being on the pro statement on that team. Also, Chair Marshall and I had an opportunity to collaborate with the City of Vancouver on some initial discussions regarding how we're going to move through our communication process. And another name that was brought up is Franklin Johnson. You might remember him. He was on Commission on Aging for many years. He's been a member of NAACP. I believe he might be retired law enforcement. I've not reached out to him, but want to just throw out those names to council if that is some people that you're interested that we could appoint, or if you have other folks. Unfortunately, the timeline's too short to actually do a press release to get folks coming in, but open to if you have anybody in mind that you would like us to reach out to and submit those names to the auditor's office.
How many folks are you've named a couple? How many do you need?
It's 3. You can have up to 3 on both
3.
sides.
Okay, got it.
And then
3,
they would collaborate for the
got
statement.
it. Okay, thank you.
Chair.
And we would need statements pro and con for the bond and the levy.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if we can have up to 3, we obviously want the most trustworthy names in the pro category and as bipartisan as possible. Ann Donnelly would fit that. Would it be possible for the sheriff's very respected? Is it possible to ask the sheriff if he'd be willing to be on the statement? We can't dictate who's on it. We have to ask, right?
Yes, you would have to ask.
Yeah, well, I would think that I would love to have the sheriff because the voters trust him. And I think that would be a powerful statement.
So it could be elected officials, is what I'm hearing. Okay. All right.
I would say I certainly am okay with that. If the sheriff would like to participate, I certainly would support that. And I think Ann Donnelly has been a long-term champion for public safety and supportive of the jail improvements. I think she would be great on that. And I do think it is important, though, that that we ensure that there are I just, I want to make sure that that we get good folks to represent the no on there as well. I think it's important for transparency. So I think there's a normal process for that to unfold, or how those folks are selected if we aren't able to identify one for.
I believe the elections office is the one then that will solicit. I'll defer to
The
legal.
third person you mentioned, Franklin Johnson, I believe it was.
Yes.
Is he a pro?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got potential 3 pros.
Yes,
If-
I would.
Right, if he is supportive.
If he's-
Nobody's had discussions with him.
He's
We're throwing names
got
around.
ringing in his ears right now.
I think another name that was suggested, can't remember his last name, Daniel, who's recently appointed to the Law and Justice Council, who's the director of Columbia River Mental Health, might be a good person as well for a pro related to the jail. Counselor Belcott.
Maybe I didn't catch it. Kathleen, did you say a press release had gone out to to ask for yes and no's?
No, that a press release has not gone out and the timeline is too short to do that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Amber Smith. To help clarify, yes, the deadline for the names to be submitted is next Tuesday, the 4th. With respect to this, counselors, you as well could be part of those committees to draft, and it's up to 3 for each of those. So about 6 individuals you can have for pros. Also same for cons. If you do not have folks in the against or the con statements, the auditor's office can go through their process of gathering names who would like to do that as well. There's also information you can find on the auditor's website about the limitations. There's word count limitations on what those for and against statements can have as well. And because of interest of time, and you do have some, sounds like fantastic names you have here to help with process and direction on that, since you will not have another meeting necessarily before the deadline of when these are due at, I believe, 3 p.m. on Tuesday. I would recommend maybe delegating to Kathleen the finding of those appointments or settling those out for you, so you don't have to specifically select and choose those individuals right now, since you don't have clear answers to that.
Yeah. Thanks. Kathleen, it's Chair. It is too late, right, for a press release. I'm going to go back. Are we promoting this in social media?
It will be, yes.
Okay.
We have a whole communications plan that is being developed for these
Talking
ballot
about asking
measures.
for pros and cons.
Pros and I'm not going to go on social media asking for who wants to write a pro or con. No,
But why wouldn't we do that?
because that'd be similar to a press release, and the timing. We have a very short timeline, and council appoints them,
Mhm.
and if not, it goes to elections. We don't have a meeting before we have to put this.
Because we have to appoint them. Okay.
Yes, yes.
I would volunteer if there's a need for the pro on the bond.
I wouldn't be opposed to that too, but if there are folks that reach out, I would prefer them over myself for sure. What exactly what is the process that would go through the auditor's office to look for folks to be able to represent the con side?
So if a list of names for con statements is not provided, and the auditor's office then would do their own solicitation and then make that selection based off of that as well. And there's a process for that as well. But the deadline for the names that you do have, at least at a minimum for the pro statements, no later than at 3 p.m. next Tuesday.
What is the deadline for the statement itself? Do we know?
It would be about a week after that. I believe it's the 14th.
Yeah, it's
Quick
August,
turnaround.
August 13th, and then rebuttals August 18th.
Pardon me. Yes, thank you.
So are there two different deadlines, like one if we're going to make the assignment, but overall a second in case we
You-
don't?
You have until next week to make the appointment. If not, you're done with the process and it's elections.
Chair. I guess I would suggest if other counselors would go along with this is to support Anne Franklin, and if the sheriff is willing to, and if none of if one of the 3 cannot do it or doesn't want to do it, then it would be great to have the chair there, especially listed as the chair of the Law and Justice Committee, if he'd be willing to be, because that would, yeah. So that's my suggestion.
And you can also look, I mean, if you had the chair and Donnelly, Sheriff Franklin, Daniel, if that's somebody you're interested in, Young, that's 6. We have 2 measures. So you can split them as well, or you can use the same 3 for both. I mean, so you can, like maybe one counselor on either one. I know Ann Donnelly would be supportive of doing both if the council would like to include her in that.
Right. Well, you have a pool of names.
Okay, so is everybody good with the names, with those names? In some capacity, if they accept or not, that we can go through that.
Great.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes,
just
go ahead.
what is the possibility of us in this shortened time frame of not being able to find anybody to provide a con statement?
It's a high possibility. I hope we can't find anybody. Personally, I mean, legally we need to, because there are those people and we want to hear from them and they have that legal right. But it would be the elections office. I don't remember if we've ever found a con for one of our items that we put on a ballot.
And my inkling would be there would be people that would step forward
Yes.
because we're talking about taxes.
Yep.
I just,
If you have somebody in mind, more than happy to reach out to them.
I might try to do that because I think it is important to at least offer, people have the opportunity to participate. And they do, but it is a shortened time frame.
So do you want to share that name so council can agree, or do you
Oh,
want to
yeah,
talk
we'd
to
have to do
them?
that now. I don't have a name in
Okay.
right at this
And
point.
so I would say if you think of one, even next week, maybe shoot it off to the auditor's office that they can include it into their process.
Okay.
Okay.
And then Chair Marshall, I did hear the bond side for you.
Bond side for me.
Councilor Young, do you have a preference? Are you okay with the
I'm
levy
okay with
lift
whatever.
side? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, now moving on to council reports. Do we have any reports from council?
Yes, I do
Go
have
ahead.
one report. I believe it was yesterday, the Clark County Accessible Community Advisory Committee met and had a lot of good discussions. This is our first meeting without Jordan, so Jake did a good job stepping in to take over that role while Jordan is out. And there is really one issue that stuck with me that I would like to bring forward to the council that they brought forward, and that is they were talking specifically about the fairgrounds. And I know that Jake is going to be sending some emails to probably to our legal team and elsewhere, but one of the things that they were hoping to see at the fairgrounds is a lot of folks get around now on motorized equipment, motorized wheelchairs and scooters and things like that. And there is a special charger that can charge those vehicles. And so one of the issues that they brought up was they would love to see one of those installed and power made available for people, because I remember this from when we went to the park, to Kleinline Park with them, that you get out there and you get stuck without enough power, or you drive out there and you realize you don't have enough power and you have to go home because you can't power your equipment. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that forward. I think there's gonna, some conversations that are gonna need to take place, and I think ultimately they'll probably provide a recommendation, assuming if it's legal, and we'll see where that goes. But anyway, just wanted to let the council be aware of that.
Do you have like a specific name of the equipment?
I don't, but we could certainly get it. Jake could probably send out an email to them.
Because, we have the fair coming up in a week. I know it's a very short term turnaround. It may be extremely expensive, but if there was something that we could do sooner than later so that something's in place for them for the fair.
Okay.
I'd
The
be
one
interested.
thing that I had brought up was, and again, I don't know all the rules, but I remember we went through a lot to switch the power on out in the courtyard in front of our building. So,
Yeah, it's a different situation than the
With-
fairgrounds. Yes.
okay. All right. Good. I didn't know the distinction between that. So good. I'm glad. I was concerned about that.
Okay, I have one item, and that is I just wanted to share with the council that our first ever agricultural conservation easement has been secured just in Ridgefield, a collaboration between the Washington Farmland Trust and our Legacy Lands program. It's the April Joy Farm. And there's a very nice article in Clark County Today and also in the Reflector that talks about this. And just a little history on this. It was 2017 when the council at that time identified agricultural lands as one of the priorities for use of legacy land funds and set aside some funding for that. And I want to thank April Joy Farm for stepping up and working through that process. But it did take quite a few years for us to secure that. And hopefully the next one we can accomplish much more quickly.
Just question on that.
Yes.
For the public's benefit, could you explain exactly what that means for the future of the property?
Okay, for the future of the property, it is conserved for agriculture in perpetuity, and the development of value, because there was some developable land within the property that they owned, and I think I can't remember how many acres it is, but that the value of that is provided to the landowner so that they're able to realize some income from that developable value in return for a commitment to conserve their property and agriculture in perpetuity. It's a big commitment on part of the property owner. Yep, you bet. And now I would just ask if the council would like to take a 5-minute break before we proceed. I think the rest can be fairly quickly, but then executive sessions, and we've been talking for quite a while.
Do we want to do it now or after a work session request?
After work session requests.
Before executive session.
Oh, and
So
so
as we're
after
making our way
policy?
to our offices, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah, is that
We
okay?
can hold out, that's
Yeah.
just fine.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then moving on to work session requests. 7.1 is a request from Washington State University to provide us with an update of their future development plans and status of the university. I can give a little backdrop. I met with the interim chancellor and their real estate development person a while back, and it came to light that some of the trips that they had reserved for their future development, that time period had lapsed in December of 2025, and they would like to pursue those trips. And they had requested an opportunity to just come before the council and provide an update about what their plans are. So I leave it to you all if that's something you'd be amenable to.
Yep.
Okay, I see at least 3 thumbs up. 4. Okay, thank you. And then the other item is a request from Four Creeks Neighborhood Association to participate in a work session. And I would suggest that that occur when we have our work session with Public Works related to 179th and all the changes that are occurring there.
What is the association wanting to share with the council?
They had submitted something which I think went out to all the counselors. Oh, it's on the screen. Oh, this is not the same thing that I was looking at. Is that this is what I received.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe I received that same email that you had.
Right. I don't know if that's specific to their request. But so there's been so many developments going on at 179th. I just want to give a lot of credit to Public Works and Transportation for meeting with the neighborhood association over the years. I think as things have continued to escalate in terms of the number of development projects underway and lengthy road closures. Yeah, and there's been questions about concurrency and other, if there are available trips. So I would be supportive of this because I think it's good to have some direct communication with the community and with our department to really clarify what the issues are. There's a lot of opportunity for misinformation. So that would be my reason to support this. This is going to continue on. I think the struggles in this area for a number of years. And I think it's informative in looking at what's been going on at 179th as we're looking at our comprehensive plan and the transportation deficit that we're looking at, decisions to expand here or there. Those decisions have been made, and what's happening on 179th is illustrates how to be cautious in making those decisions. So I think it can be informative as we're moving forward with decisions related to the comprehensive plan. So, but I leave it to the council. We need 3 thumbs up to include them. We don't usually include members of the public, but we have done it in the past related to Friends of Vancouver Lake. The mining industry had their own work session. There might be another example, I'm not sure, but
Supporter.
Chair.
yes.
I just had a question. Are we leaving out any stakeholders in this discussion? Are they at odds with each other, or is this? I just don't know much about why just the neighborhood association. Are there other stakeholders that want to be part of that?
I think the neighborhood association, it's a large neighborhood and well-attended neighborhood association meetings and have been discussing this over the years. So I think including the neighborhood association, you'd get the most organized perspective from the neighbor's perspective.
And I did put up the information I believe that you received.
Okay, yeah, that looks familiar.
Chair?
Yes.
Supportive of doing this, but I do think it would be important to quickly discuss and agree on some parameters and process on that.
Ground rules, yeah.
Yeah. And how long is the work session scheduled for? And are we taking some of the time from that for them, or are we adding to the length of the overall work session?
They requested 20-minute presentation, 10 minutes for council questions.
I think that's appropriate. And I personally, I think that probably would be best to have them start the meeting and
yeah.
give their presentation to us. And then we'll, at that point, we'll close their portion of it so that staff can come back and we can have a conversation about things.
Question.
So are you thinking we'd hear from the neighborhood association and then staff? Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then of course we always have the latitude if the council has questions of asking
Right.
them to come back up.
Right. That sounds good. And are there ground rules that you want to suggest?
I would just say, keep it respectful, as factual as possible, although perspective is not always a matter of fact. So, and just keep an eye open that the one I have learned personally in my own life and my own advocacy that sometimes we really don't understand some of the engineering and stuff that goes on with traffic. So just being respectful of staff and other opinions and stuff. But I look forward to hearing from them because, they have a lot to say. I think they really are experiencing some challenges out there.
And I think, any of those misunderstandings or not understanding is an opportunity to clear that up. And I think they should provide, if they have slides or information, they should provide that in a timely way so it could be posted as well as whatever Public Works is posting. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know anything about this request. Are any of the presenters in active litigation with us? Is there anything related to that?
That's a good question. I'm not
See
sure.
a couple names that were on the,
I'm not
it-
sure if there's active litigation at this moment. Does anybody know?
179.
As far as litigation against the county, no.
Okay,
okay. I
thank you.
just-
And the neighborhood associations as an entity, they're not involved in litigation. There could be individuals, but
Presenting though. I
But-
saw a couple names listed there.
it would be Andrew Sika, who's the president of the neighborhood association, and Heidi Pozo, who is their tracks development that's occurring in the neighborhood.
Okay. I just have concerns.
The chair.
Yes, go ahead.
One other thing I think that really needs to happen is they need to get together as a neighborhood association, discuss this, and come up with exactly what their comments will look like, what their presentation looks like, and they need to have a vote on it. What shouldn't happen is having one member of the group coming forward representing the entire group without an official process to.
Right. At their last, it was discussed at length at their last meeting. I told them that I was going to request for them to have time as part of a work session. I had the sense that people were agreeable to that. There wouldn't be time their executive committee, we could ask their executive committee to agree to that. They have a president, a treasurer, and
Maybe we can ask
Well-
Marilee to, because these kinds of things can tear a neighborhood association apart. And I don't want to risk that.
I
It
think
can happen.
they are pretty much united.
I imagine they probably are, but there are processes in place. It depends on their bylaws too.
I think we have 3 thumbs up and some cautionary notes. So we'll get the information. We'll pass this along to them, and they may be watching right now. So thanks very much. Okay. Did you want to share anything?
We're being cautious.
Okay. So that's all for work session request policy updates.
The other thing I want to follow up on the motorized transportation mode and power. So apparently that group did meet with the fair at the fairgrounds and with Michelle Schuster. She's already reached out to me. They said there's not one standardized power source, but if you learn that there is, let us know so that we can.
Okay, that's good feedback, because I think I was under the impression they thought that they were all the same. So I could be wrong, but that's good to know. Thank you.
Okay, then moving on, that'll move us into our executive session. That was the policy
Oh, that's
update.
it?
I know, it was quick. So executive sessions 9.1, RCW 42.30.110, 1 little g for 10 minutes with potential after action. 9.2 is pending litigation, RCW 42.30.110, 1 little I for 15 minutes with potential after action. That's 9.3, RCW 42.30.110, 1 little c for 10 minutes, no potential after action. So that would be 35 minutes. And if we take a 5-minute break, we'll return at, that would be 4:10. Okay.
405. 405.
Oh, 4:05, because it's 5 till now. Okay, we are in agreement on the time. So we'll convene in a moment. Council has returned from our executive session. Is there a motion?
Chair, there is. I'd like to move to grant indemnification and defense to Judge Payton in the civil case King versus Clark County District Court et al. Case number 26-2-02034-06.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Is there another motion?
Yes, Chair. I move to follow the recommendation of the Historic Preservation Commission and appoint Douglas Wilson to fill the vacant county appointed position on the Clark County Historic Preservation Commission, a joint City of Vancouver, Clark County Commission.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. So we've completed our agenda, and without objection, this meeting is adjourned.